I have been in Miami for the last 6 weeks. I'm not upset about it. Today we are on day after Snowmageddon in Toronto. And since I got here, I've really wanted to find a realtor who could talk to the Miami landscape because I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what's going on in Miami, Florida, whatever that is, just like it happens in Toronto. And I have been following my guest today for a while, and I don't know why I didn't even think of it to just reach out to you. Anyway, this is Linzi Breuhan. I'm so happy to have you on. You are with Real in Fort Lauderdale, correct?
Yep.
And you have a great story. And one of the reasons why I started following you was because you left a very cold place, Michigan, and you decided to make the jump. So I want to hear all about that. I want to hear all about the market. So welcome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the intro. Yeah, I'm excited. So you didn't end up leaving. I thought you were leaving today and going back. You ended up staying.
I did. Yeah, I was. That's right. Because I said I was going to be in Toronto. No, because the flights were canceled, and I brought my dog with me. And switching a flight with a dog is not what you would think it would be.
Oh,
So
there's my dog.
yeah, I was like, is that no? Mine's on the balcony. Um, no, so I'm stuck here until Saturday.
Oh no.
I know. I've like purposely not been posting because I think everybody would probably hate my guts. So this will air sometime next month. So hopefully everyone will get over it and I'll be home. Um, but listen, I love that. Like the first thing when I said to you, how's everything? You were like busy. It's always busy. And I feel like depending on who I talk to, everyone's like, oh, the market's crashed. No one wants to like move there. Like no one's buying anything. So I'm so interested to hear your perspective. But tell me what made you pick up from Michigan and move to Florida.
Well, to what you said, there are closings happening every single day. And I think that is just like every aspect in life. You either look and find opportunities or you look and you find like setbacks. And that's actually probably a good way to start off this conversation as far as like picking up and relocating because it's not easy to do. And that's why I focus so much of my attention and my content on it is because I've personally done it. And it was even hard for me, even though I had a history of being in Florida before. So when I graduated high school in 2013, I picked up and I moved across the country and I went to college in South Florida. I was going to be an air traffic controller and then I was going to be a pilot. And so a lot of people don't know that about me, but I got my pilot's license and
Wow,
I was like,
amazing.
I don't want to do this. I want to be home every night. Like I come from a line of aviation. So I'm the black sheep of the family. I'm like, I'm going to get into real estate. I'm going to figure this out because essentially, long story short, I was in like a tumultuous relationship with my son's dad. And when I was 8 months pregnant, I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm moving back to Michigan. I'm not doing this. Like, I got to figure this out. Okay. So I moved back to Michigan. And the only thing worse than being from somewhere cold and feeling like you can't escape it is leaving for a while, seeing what's out there, seeing what's the lifestyle, what Rachel's
So
doing right
true.
now, and then being forced to go back to what you didn't know was as bad as it is. And
Yeah. Yeah.
being from Michigan, people down here all the time are like, "Oh my God, you're from Michigan. It's so cold up there." But I was just gaslit my whole life into thinking that that was normal, like that
Well,
living
I
in
mean,
tundra
it
was
is, yeah, it is normal for a good chunk of, I mean, the better side of the East Coast for sure. And I mean, I always said, like, I was born in Canada. I was actually born in Montreal, and then I moved, and I grew up in Toronto. And every winter, I'd be like, why do I live here? Like, what, why? Like, I even tried to, like, when the kids were small to, like, get into skiing. I was like, okay, like, let's find something that would be enjoyable over the winter so we don't hate it as much. And I think they're just people who, like, I was on a call with a client this morning. I hadn't talked to her in so long, and she was like, I love this weather. And I'm like, so you really belong in Canada, right? Not all of us do.
yeah, everyone's different. My mom's from Minnesota, and
Wow.
I was texting her because Minnesota's super cold. And I was texting her, I'm like, Mom, I can't believe this temperature difference down here versus up there. She's like, yeah, I'm hibernating. I don't leave the house. She doesn't work. She doesn't leave the house. So for some people, it works. But for me, someone who leaves the house every single day. I live a very active lifestyle. I like to be outdoors. I like to be in the sun. It just did not work for me. So essentially, after being back in Michigan for a few years, I was like, I am done. Like, I remember it was April and it snowed, and like the end of April, like we're in springtime, and that's the thing too with Toronto, I'm sure is the same as where I'm from. June is cold. June is
Oh,
cold.
yeah.
In
My
summer,
birthday's in April. I have
yeah.
many years there was snow on the ground for sure.
Exactly. And I'm like, you know what? I'm done. And I was crying and sent a picture to my dad because I really wanted my whole family to support me. I really wanted everybody to see where I was coming from, to understand what I was going through. And unfortunately, they just didn't. But I remember sending a picture to my dad crying. And I'm like, Dad, like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm done.
Right.
And it wasn't something I needed anybody to approve of, but you just have these things that, are kind of just roadblocks in your mind of like, oh, what's my family gonna think? You
Right.
know?
It's a good point for sure.
So that's why I do focus on relocation, and I can relate to people who, have all these feelings that are coming with relo is because I've done it. So essentially, I was like, I'm done. This is it. This is the last winter I'm doing up here. And that was. And then I moved back down here about 3 years ago. And it's a lot. If anyone here listening is in real estate, Rachel, you'll understand the severity of this. To have to start over your business entirely across the country from where you're at is just not something. Like, I was selling over 30 homes a year. I was booked. I was busy. I was like just starting my career. I was in my first few years. And I'm like, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to figure it out. And I put my back against the wall and I'm like, I will figure it out. As a single mom too, I'm like, I'm doing it.
Yeah, no, real estate is really who you know. So if you move somewhere and you don't know anybody, kind of hard to find clients for sure. So amazing. Kudos to you. Do you have you worked with a lot of people over the last 3 years who have relocated, or is that just
Yeah.
more like, okay, you have?
That is my client base. Like, you know what? It's funny because when I moved back down here, I've lived in Florida collectively for 8 years. So I do have a lot of friends and I have a lot of connections here, and I know all the neighborhoods and I know all the streets, and I've lived in 8 different zip codes down here. But everybody down here is either a realtor, or their best friend's a realtor, or their mom's a realtor, or their Aunt Carol's a realtor. So for me, I was like, okay, I cannot compete with somebody's mother for their business. So what can I do? I can share my story online, and I can share the good, the bad, the ugly. And, like, my content makes people feel heard and understood. And so they resonate with me, and then I end up working with them because I know what it feels like to make them
That's
happy.
amazing. It's such a unique way of also approaching it because you're right. I mean, when you get into I remember the first time I told people early on that I wanted to get my license, and they're like, why? There's like that was the face I got, right? And they were like, there's so many realtors. And I'm like, yeah, but like you said, you work at it. And so, okay, so now you're down here and your boots on the ground and you know what's going on. Would you say, and it just came up again with the same client I was talking to this morning. I said, usually you go away, like they usually go to Arizona. And she's like, yeah, we chose not to go to the States this year. And no more had to be said. I know what they were trying, like what she was trying to say to me. And so there's also like a lot of people who are reading headlines saying people are not coming to the States, or they're not, they don't want to own anything here. And yeah, like, are you really seeing that? Are you feeling it?
I think just as many people, if not more, that are saying that they don't want to be a part of it are saying, get me the hell out of here. Like, we have to go. Just like you're going to have two completely different political parties, here in the US. And there's people that either are flocking to Florida because of what we're doing here in Florida, and there are people that are leaving Florida and going to California, right? Like, there are just, and the same I'm hearing constantly. So I'm not looking for the people that don't want to come here. Like, those aren't my dream clients. My dream clients are the ones that are saying, you know what, it's so expensive here in Toronto. Like, it is not only expensive, it's freezing. And, what I'm seeing politically, I'm not aligned with. I get a lot of conversations from people that are like, we don't want to raise our kids in this environment, so we're leaving. And those are the people that I can help.
And the taxes, of course. Let's not forget the taxes. So, again, Toronto has very much a recessionary market when it comes to condos. and I don't know what it's been like down here in the sense of builds over COVID, but we overbuilt on properties that had very, very small units, like under 500 square feet, investor targeted units. And they are not like they're not appraising, and a lot of people kind of, I don't think as many people as they expected lost their shirts, but a lot of condos are for sale, and there's a lot of inventory, and so there's a lot of struggle in Toronto specifically around the condo market. I am right now in Surfside, and every other building, not the renovations that they're doing for the 50 years, but like new builds are happening, and you don't see that in Toronto. There are no cranes in the air anymore in Toronto. So what is the atmosphere for the condo market, like up and down the coast? Let's call it that. Like you're in Fort Lauderdale, so what are you seeing?
So condo market has a lot of its own issues that are going on, especially since the collapse of Surfside, which is a different Surfside than what you're talking about, I
No,
believe.
no, same Surfside. The collapse,
Sure,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. It's like 10 buildings down. Very,
Yeah.
very sad.
So when that happened, that changed the laws and regulations and the different inspections that are necessary and required for Florida condos. And what happened is they realized that we don't have any money in the reserves and in the funds to cover these sort of things. So these owners are getting hit with, some of them I've seen, over $200,000 worth of assessments in a particular unit. One of my listings I currently have, he got hit with over $200,000 of assessments.
And
And
you're not selling it with a two. He has to pay for it, or he's not going to sell it.
he's almost through a lot of it. And what the new buyer does have to look forward to is a new pool deck and everything. So it's a tough sell when it's being done. Not only are there jackhammers and like dust everywhere, and
Everywhere.
it's hard to sell a vision of the future, which is why we had to get a little creative with the marketing, and why I'm signing year-long listing agreements. Like I won't sign a 4-month-long listing agreement anymore. Those days are gone.
Wow, that's so interesting.
But yeah, it's definitely changed what's going on with the HOA, or with the condo market down here. There are some condos, not all are created equal. You know, if you have your agent look into like the financials and the reserves of the building, and the condition, the health of the condition of the building, then that's something to be aware of.
Is the review of the status certificate not part of the process of buying a condo anyway? Like would that be part of a condition if you were offered it anyway?
Well, yes, if you're financing, yes. And they won't even do any federally backed loans on like 99%, because here we've got FHA and VA loans, and no buildings will really touch them.
Really? So it's very hard to even get financing on condos right now?
You have to put at least 20% down on them, and there are certain stipulations, like, there's litigations going on in some buildings because they're not building it correctly. So I don't want to say dumpster fire, but it's pretty
I would.
damn close to a dumpster fire. Mm-hmm.
And it's true. You make a good point. Like, I think there are probably buildings that are dumpster fires. There's no question. And I don't think it even is a location state, because I have a very good friend whose mother has a condo in Val Harbor. The building will remain nameless. And they have not had a pool for 3 years because the condo corp is fighting amongst itself, and the owners are pushing back, and so it's not getting done, and they're not getting the right quotes, and so it can be a really massive problem, and then people don't want to get into that. Whereas, you see other buildings that are selling very well because they've done their assessment, they've cleaned everything up, and it's done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that true, or am I just kind of making that up?
No, for sure. There are definitely buildings that have good residuals, that have good funding, that are good and safe and clear and a green light. But there are other ones too that it's just there's some shady stuff that goes on too that you need to be aware of, because when someone is getting all these quotes for redoing pool decks and redoing the inspections and all this, it's not coming out of their pocket. So, there's also talk of who's making these executive decisions, and why are they choosing certain contractors that they're choosing, and the homeowners and the condo owners are the people that are fronting the bill. So it's definitely a mess. I would be careful. If sometimes it's better to just rent a condo for a couple months and come down and then leave. As much as I want to sell things to people, I don't always tell people that it's the best move if it's not.
Well, I mean, I would also say I deal with relocators all the time also, and your first year should always involve renting something. You never know what real life is going to be like. I mean, I know my husband was walking around and he was like, I wish there were more like restaurants on the water. And I'm like, we're not in a tourist area. This is like day to day life, right? Like this is as if you lived here. So there aren't going to be bars as if you were down in South Beach at a hotel, right? So one of the things that I notice about Miami that I think is so spectacular is, so first of all, at least in the area that I'm in, it's like very clean. There's so many amenities, like for just like free. Like you walk along the boardwalk, there's like 12 machines to like you could do a full workout from like Bal Harbor all the way to North Beach. They've got poop, like they've got like they give out poop bags like every other block. The beaches are clean every day. It's really incredible. And yet I've heard that DeSantis is campaigning on removing property taxes. I mean, that's huge. Do you think that that will actually go through?
So it's not like there's a lot of confusion around exactly what that looks like. And it's not like he's just going to get rid of them. There's no taxes at all for anybody. That's not the case at all. What he's looking for is some reformation of the current taxable values or the current way that homes are being taxed, because it is a lot. It is expensive. You look in places like Coral Gables, and for $1 million house, they're paying at least, sometimes almost $20,000 a year in taxes. And it's crazy. You would think that some of these streets would be lined with gold with how much they are taxing. Okay. And obviously, and there's other things as well. So it's not just removing it entirely. There's going to be more exemptions. So instead of having, up to $50,000 worth of homesteaded exemptions, they're looking at upping it to $100,000 of a homestead exemption. Also looking at, I want to say it's only about 47% of owners in Florida actually have a homestead exemption. So this would only be for people whose primary residence is in Florida. A lot of these tax breaks that they're talking about. So people that are investors or own, second homes, it's not for them. So it's not every single property that's out there. And also this is going to happen between now and 2037 which sounds like it's far away, but it's only 11 years. It's crazy. But yeah, and they'll also keep like school taxes and stuff coming out of your bill as well. So it's just more of a reformation to make Florida more affordable. And not necessarily getting rid of taxes entirely.
Yeah, I was like, how are they going to do that? And I am now guilty of reading a headline. So
Okay.
it was shocking to me because granted, I think there was something like there's more wealth in Miami than, I don't know what they were comparing it to. And you can imagine that whatever they're bringing in is allowing them to deliver, clean beaches and clean streets. And I love that there's police stations for every area. So like Surfside's 20 blocks, 30 blocks maximum, and there's a Surfside police. And then you go to Bal Harbor, and that's only also 5 blocks, and they have their own. I love the community services that they have here, but someone's got to be funding it. And I was like, how are they getting rid of property taxes? There was a condo, I'm not going to say it properly, but at the Arte, that beautiful luxury building a couple of doors down from me. And there's a unit on the 4th floor that's $26 million for sale. If anybody's interested, they can call you. and yeah, exactly. And the property taxes were $200,000.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It is insane. So if people were coming down, for example, people always want to talk about prices. So in Fort Lauderdale, if you want to buy a condo, 2-bedroom condo, average 1,500 square feet on the water, that's in good financial health, what would you say like range would be your starting at? Like you can't buy anything under X amount.
So on the water in Fort Lauderdale, you might be able to get something in like 450 for a 2 bedroom. It's going to need to be, I mean, everyone has different style, but if you want it to look like, today's modern, then, you're going to have to put some upgrades into it. But I have one listed right now for 600 about. And it's 2 bedroom, it's completely renovated and it's on the beach and there's, no assessments or anything like that. So 600 US is good for a condo.
Yeah, for sure. And then if someone wanted to, let's say, buy a house that's not on the water in a good neighborhood with a school district, what would like a 3 bedroom house look like? Average.
On average, so, well, it just depends. So if you want, I love East Fort Lauderdale. That's where I live. And you can get a house that's, 10 minutes to the beach in a good neighborhood that is desirable, that people love, that is zoned an A-rated elementary school for like $1 million US. But then, I've got people that are moving here that, I just was talking to someone from Toronto. He wants, a bigger house. You can get stuff in Parkland or West Boca for about $1 million as well. And it's going to be in a gated community and it's going to be, 2,500 to 4,500 square feet versus in East Fort Lauderdale, you might get 1,800 to 2,200 square feet for the same price.
So for sure.
If you want like beach life, then you're going to want to be in East Fort Lauderdale. If you want more, bigger space and, to be living in like a luxury community, then you're going to be out west a little further. But there's
for people who don't understand, can you just explain what a gated community means to the audience?
Yeah. Just like it's enclosed with gates and it's private and, there is an HOA typically with 100% of the time with a gated community, but
like convenience fees, yeah.
Some of my families want their kids to be kids and, ride their bikes all day and come home when it gets dark. And so they opt for the gated community. And then others just want like the beachier vibe. They want to be close to downtown. They want to, be close to restaurants and walking distance to tons of parks and everything. And that's going to be more east. But I always like to tell people the further east you go towards the water, the more expensive it is. And generally the further south you go, the more expensive it is. So southeast, like Miami Beach, like you're going to be right where it's like very expensive.
Yeah, I mean, I was so interested when I got here. Not that I'm buying anything, because I am not moving, sadly. But I was looking just out of curiosity, at what the prices were, and I did not see a single 2-bedroom condo that was facing the water. So again, obviously same thing, like higher floor, facing the water is a big one. Like definitely I noticed in pricing was the differentiator. If you're facing the city, it's like half the price almost. I did not see anything that was like under $1.5 million. And like, I think I saw something for 900 that had a sliver of the water that like needed a full gut job.
Well, Miami is interesting. So Miami is like, it's a different world. Like I'm in Fort Lauderdale, I go down to Miami and I've got some clients in like more North Miami and the Gables and like I'll go down and visit and everything. But people move from all over the US and different countries and go to Miami. Okay. So the prices there, like, yes, of course, every single area in Florida is like declining. We're seeing a declining market, but all you need is one person that will pay it. And sometimes for some of these people in these price points, money is not a thing,
Oh, so. It's not a line item. No, it's not a line item in their so one of my best friends is from Miami Beach and her parents still live there, like at Alton and 46th. And they were telling me, I don't know there's a name for all the houses that are on the water there, like a couple of streets over. It's not the ocean. It's like is it Indian River?
That sounds right.
Whatever it is. Anyway, they told me that someone bought a house for 150 million and they tore it down because they didn't like that house. It was a brand new house. It was like a nice house. It was like a renovated. It wasn't a tear down. They just like, for them, that kind of money is not a line item. And they just didn't like the style of the house. They just wanted that lot. So they tore it down.
Yep. I see
They
that all
tore
the time.
down 150 million. First of all, I don't think there's a $150 million house in Toronto. Let's just put that way. And they've also told me that so tons of New Yorkers have moved to Miami. Tons of New Yorkers. Again, like you were saying, blue state, red state kind of thing. And then a ton of French have moved into Bal Harbor specifically. So it's interesting to me, and not just one perspective, but also like driving some of these prices up in Miami Beach and in Miami, like in particular, because there's just so many people like coming here.
Well, there's very different political climates down here versus in New York City right now with what's going on there. And even like Virginia, I've had clients that I've been talking to for years that have reached out to me and said, "Hey, Lindsay, we're ready to make the move. Like, we just don't feel comfortable like staying here, raising our family here." So we're seeing definitely an influx of people moving down here. But still, with the current pricing that we're at, like, it just can't, it's not sustainable. So we're just seeing such a market correction because after COVID, when everyone could work from home and there was 3% interest rates and there was a huge influx of people moving down here, especially because there was just so many people moving down here during COVID that the prices skyrocketed because to pay, $30,000 worth of interest on $1 million home over the year, that's one thing. But to pay $60,000 worth of interest, like it's unreasonable. Like people just cannot afford to do it. So we're seeing a correction for the basic everyday families, not like the rock stars that are buying 2 properties on the water and knocking them down.
No,
They're
for sure.
always going to be blowing money fast. But for those of us that,
Oh my God, the boats. The boats and the cars. Like I send my son what I call the car of the day every single day. It's like the Lamborghinis, and I don't even know from these cars. I just like it's crazy the money that's down here. I mean, and again, for us, because Toronto is not a destination in that sense, like we just don't have that type of um, clientele. It's very unusual. There's a very small portion, so we don't have people coming and just buying up property. We have the same correction, but it's more across the board because yes, there's luxury, but it's such a smaller percentage of our market than it is to yours.
yeah, a market that is not really being affected. It's not really affected by rates. People are just buying them up. These multi-million dollar properties are buying in cash. So, it doesn't matter as much to them. Those are the properties that are actually moving down here a lot more.
So interesting because in Toronto, because we're such a different like beast, I actually find it the last people to buy are the wealthy when it's not because they're just like they're waiting like for
Opportunity, yeah.
opportunity or they're like, you know what, we'll get like because they can buy anything. So there's no like, oh, this is a great time to buy. So I'm going to go out and buy because there's a correction. So it's an interesting differentiator in the market for sure. So one of the last things I want to touch on is rentals because there are people. I have a good friend who keeps messaging me while I'm down here saying like, have you seen any rentals? Maybe I'm just going to do it next year, like watching what I've been doing while I've been here. And so one of the things that people need to know is obviously you cannot rent anything here short term. Like you actually have is it Florida wide? It's not just Miami, right? That they have a short term tax for rentals.
Yeah, Florida in general. Broward County has it too, I believe. The 6%? Are you talking about the 6%?
That the landlord would have to pay if they were to do it for less than a year, correct?
Yeah.
Right. So, like if someone's like, oh, maybe I just want to go down to Florida and like go for December, you can't. Like you would have to stay in a hotel.
I don't do much with short-term rentals, but what I can tell you is all these condo associations, like you're not even allowed to do anything less than 30 days. These associations won't let you. And usually it's 30 days minimum and they want to do like 3 months because if you can only rent it out, if this is a property that's supposed to be an income generating property for you and you can only rent it out twice a year or 3 times a year, minimum of 30 days, they're going to want you to be there 3 to 6 months, So that's the extent of it that I do. A lot of my clients are essentially not purchasing short-term rentals. And it's hard to make out with that in this current market that we're in.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I had an immensely hard time finding an agent that even wanted to deal with me for 6 months. And and then I just ended up finding it and having her do the paperwork. But I found I found anything less than 6 months impossible to find, like impossible. Um, and I mean, I understand why no one would rent for a month. That's definitely that makes so much sense to me. So, okay, so if someone wanted to rent something, they're really looking at 6 months minimum. At least that's what I saw. And then when does the short-term tax hit you? If it's under 6 months?
I honestly don't know. I'm not sure about that.
I think it's less than 6
I don't do a lot with the short-term rental. That's a good question, but I think it was like 6%. I think it's 6% in Broward County, and I don't know when it hits you, to be honest.
And then if someone wanted, like, where's your favorite place to tell, like, I feel like we'll end with this, but like, where's your favorite place to tell people? Like, they're like, we really want your advice, Lindsay. Like, where do you think we should move? We're like a young family and we love the sun and yeah, we love the beach. Like, we're coming for the warm weather. Like, if it was just like an average, like money's an issue, but not so much. Like, we're not in such a tight budget. Where would you recommend?
Honestly, I've lived in Coral Gables, I've lived in Pompano Beach, I've lived in a few different zip codes in Fort Lauderdale, I've lived in Miami. And for me, I love East Fort Lauderdale. I just love it. I don't know, but it's also because like Miami is just such a city and I have a young child. My son's 8 years old. We like to go for walks. We like to go to the park. We like to, I don't know, it's definitely a different vibe being in Miami versus Fort Lauderdale. And there's a community here called Rio Vista and there's tons of aisles. It's like Fort Lauderdale is known as like the Venice of the US because there's just so much intercoastal and so much waterway. And that's my personal favorite, like as long as you've got like 1.5 to 2.5 million to spend. But yeah, it's just so hard because everybody's so different. Like everybody that I talk to is just like, there's just so many different factors, which is why I've like worked so much on like the right questions to ask people so I can best guide them and coming up with new resources too. Like today I'm making a guide that's like, I'm having my assistant work on a guide that like moving to Florida with kids or, figuring out your perfect, like 5 different like stereotype or 5 different characteristics. Like if you're looking for the best return on investment in the next 5 years, this is perfect for you. If you're looking for the biggest house for the biggest bang for your buck, this is for you. If you want like space in a backyard, but you want to be close to Costco, this is for you. So there's just so many different like personalities that I talk to. And I find that not everybody is like me, like,
Yep. It's a lesson realtors all need to learn very early.
yes, you can't go in and be like, oh, what is this place? Because your client might love it.
Very true. Well, those guides sound amazing. What we'll do is we'll put your contact info in the show notes and your Instagram because I think everybody should follow you because it's like so fun because it's, again, the snowstorm in Toronto or walking your dog along the boardwalk, which I need to go do very shortly before he revolts on me. And also those guides, if anybody wants to, know more about Florida and South Florida, you're definitely the person to reach out to. So thank you so much for your time today.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I loved it. Let me know if you have any questions. If anyone has questions, I'm an open book. So just let me know. There's so many like emotions and things that go into relocating. So here to help and to guide you.
I love it. Thank you so much, Lindsay.
Of course. Thanks, Rachel.